Welcome to the Jet Age Museum's Vulcan Bomber Virtual Reality Experience, in association with the University of Gloucestershire. Our experience will take you inside our Vulcan bomber cockpit, where two former Vulcan pilots, Pete Branthwaite and Tony Pearson, would like to show you around. We hope you enjoy the sights and sounds of our Vulcan bomber cockpit at the Jet Age Museum.
Welcome to our Vulcan.
You are now sitting in the cockpit of our Vulcan B-2 bomber, XM569.
It's dark, very cramped and a little uncomfortable. In this small space, you would be wearing a thick woolen bodysuit, a full rubber waterproof suit, a life jacket, oxygen mask and a helmet, or a bone dome as we called them. On a training mission, you'd be strapped into your ejection seat for 5 hours at a time.
Vulcans were flown by the Royal Air Force from 1956 to 1984 and were built in response to the Cold War between the East, the Soviet Union, and the West, the United States and Europe. Their task was to drop bombs, both nuclear and conventional. One nuclear bomb could pack a punch more powerful than all the bombs dropped over Germany in World War II.
We spent a lot of time doing target study, but we had this surreal feeling that we were training for something that we hoped would never happen.
If it did, we knew it would be a one-way mission and there would be nothing to return to. But that was something you just couldn't dwell upon.
The only time the Vulcan was used in anger was in the War for the Falkland Islands in 1982. In Operation Black Buck, they flew 7 missions, each a round trip of over 8,000 miles, and had to be refuelled several times in mid-air.
OK, let's turn on the power and introduce you to the crew. You're sitting in the left-hand seat, which is where the captain sits. He's in charge of the mission, makes most of the decisions, and is responsible for the aircraft and crew safety. Just in front of you are the flight instruments, temperature controls, altimeters, 4 throttles, and the control column. If you move it, it steers and controls the plane.
On the right is the co-pilot seat. His job is to look after up to 40 tons of fuel in 14 separate fuel tanks. He has to manage that fuel load to keep the centre of gravity and the balance of the aircraft. He also shares the flying with the captain. Like you are, they're sat on ejection seats to help them escape from the plane. The rear crew didn't have that luxury.
You'll notice that the windows in front of you are very small with restricted view. The idea is that you can see just enough for takeoff and for landing. They're also designed that way so they can be blacked out completely in the event of a nuclear flash, which would have blinded the pilots.
Behind you are the 3 rear crew. You are now sat in the centre seat of the rear compartment in the Vulcan, which is the seat for the navigator plotter. He navigates the aircraft using old-fashioned maps and advises the captain on the height and direction to fly to reach the target. On your right is the Air Electronics Officer, or AEO. He monitors the electrics and is in charge of long-range communications.
On your left is the NavRad, the navigator and radar operator. He uses the radar to find the target, then releases the bomb. They have to be a very close-knit team and have trust and confidence in each other for the safety of the aircraft.
So, before you get airborne, there's an internal checklist that's run through to make sure the aircraft is ready to go.
Door emergency switch?
Yep.
ADOS master switch
Closed.
Can we adjust some levers while the position kick in?
Right, OK, let's start the engines.
Okay, go straight into the engine starter.
Yeah.
This is the sound for 4-jet engines, but just when they're idle. Imagine the sound if they were at full throttle.
The sight and sound of a Vulcan can bring people to tears. It's iconic and dramatic, with its unusual shape that casts a menacing triangular shadow. It astonishes people that something so big could be thrown around the sky.
And of course there's the famous Vulcan howl. We're going to return to the pilot's seat for the full Vulcan experience. This distinctive sound happens when the engines are at 90% of full power. The air vibrates through the engines and intakes and creates a wonderful howl. This is the noise that gives the Vulcan her voice.
We hope you've enjoyed your Vulcan experience, and if you have any more questions, please talk to one of our Vulcan volunteers.
Thanks very much, everybody. Very nice. Yeah, I'll tell the driver something.
And if you haven't been in our real cockpit yet, please visit our ticket desk.